But we are going to start with the mock draft. There you go. We all know the chime there. For the NFL mock draft, we're going to go ahead and talk about that. We're going to talk about Michigan State, Maryland. We're going to talk about baseball as well. But we got the draft coming. So those of you that love the draft, that are like me, that are big fans of the NFL draft, it's going to be different this year than what we had last year. Last year, we had a lot of rubber stamp. We had a lot of NFL draft teams, a lot of teams that were in the draft. We kind of knew what was going to happen at the top. This year, not so much. Quarterbacks, not as much as we saw last year. We saw an unusual amount go very high. There's a couple of elite players. You're seeing more defensive players. Last year, we didn't get a defensive player to about 15, I think it was. So other positions are now in there as well. I think there's already a lot of smoke. So, we'll talk about the quarterbacks and everything, but there's a lot of smoke. And how do I make a mock draft? So what happens when you do a mock draft for the NFL? So there's a couple of things. Why are you in the shot there? We're going to talk mock draft. Yeah. Who's going first for Tennessee there? That's Mrs. Ravori. So we go ahead and for the NFL mock draft, what do we think is going to happen? What do I think is going to happen? What the teams are going to do? What are the history of these teams? How do they go ahead and draft players? That always factors in. So obviously what you think, but also too, it is somewhat predictive. So the history of like that. How does EDC draft? How does Les Veach draft? How does Omar Khan draft? What do they actually do in the draft on an annual basis? Also, to who's available, obviously. What are the needs of the teams? What teams need what exactly in the draft? So those are all things I look at in the mock draft for these teams. So let's go ahead. Number one in the 2025 mock draft, Cam Ward. There's a lot of smoke with Cam Ward. There are really two quarterbacks in this draft. Cam Ward and Deion Sanders' oldest son. I don't know if he's his oldest son or not, because Shiloh's about the same age. But those are the two quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round. The guy that Cam Ward reminds me of, is fitting that he's going to play in Tennessee, is Steve McNair. I think the athleticism is there. He's going to run. I do think Ward is a good first-round pick. All the measurables are there. He does need a bit more coaching in the sense of I don't think every coordinator would know how to use him. But I think Cam Ward, the upside, I think, is the highest. I think the Titans do take first. They are saying that they're going to go in the draft. They're open for business. I kind of do think that's smoke a little bit. I think if they're blown away with something, they would trade it. The Browns. I keep seeing mock drafts with the Browns not taking a QB. I kind of don't think they have a choice, right? You got to take Shador if he's there. I think they kind of – some of them would want to take an Abdul Carter or defensive player. It's kind of in Brown's nature to go against that, but I don't think you can pass on Shador. You cannot have another season of having the fans hoping that Deshaun Watson is coming back and all that, et cetera. That's not going to work. Best player in the draft. I think the Giants are dying to take one of the first two. I think if there is a deal, it's going to for sure be with the Giants. I don't think going by this draft, not going to be a deal. Short of a deal, I don't know if they get one. Travis Hunter, I think, is going to be he's a generational talent on both sides of the ball. I think some team is going to try and make him a two-way player. I don't know if that's wise, but he could play at a high level at wide receiver and or cornerback. There's no question about it. He plays at a different speed. So I think, to me, he's the number one player on the board in the entire draft. It doesn't matter if you play him on either side. He'll be successful, I think, on either side. The question is, can his body hold up for both sides of the ball? I'm not sure anybody's can at the NFL level. Abdul Carter for the edge for the Patriots. They definitely need offensive line help. I think that's looking at the needs. I think that's the biggest needs. You cannot pass on Abdul Carter. You cannot pass on that. You have to take him there. So when you look, this guy may be the best player in the entire draft 4th in the draft is a great place to take him. They definitely need that offensive line help, but you can't pass on a generational talent. This guy for sure is going to be one of the best defensive players in the league right away. I don't think there's any chance you pass on that. Will Johnson from Michigan. Will Johnson, I think, is tremendous. I mean, the only question here with him is the injury he had last year that caused him missile last year. Watch the film of him going up against Marvin Harrison the previous year, one-on-one in coverage, actually getting an interception. And Will Johnson, I think, is a shutdown corner. So there's 2 really good corners early. Travis Hunter and Will Johnson are outstanding corners. More traditional, I think he's going to also get drafted high because easy to coach. You can put him in a slot. You can put him anywhere. Travis Hunter is number 5 there. I'm sorry. Will Johnson is number 5. Terriana McMillan, Michigan. I'm sorry. That's not Michigan. He's Arizona. Sorry about that. So Arizona, number 5 for that. The Raiders, I say it every year. You never know what's going to do. The Raiders were my dad's favorite team. Yeah, Al Davis. You never knew what Al Davis was going to do. Maybe take the fastest guy. I don't think there's a real speedster at wide receiver for them. So I think they're going to take McMillan. I don't know who's going to be throwing to him necessarily, but I think this is the best player on the board. Best wide receiver that's not named Travis Hunter. If you don't count Travis Hunter in the draft, I think you never know with the Raiders. It's always kind of tough to tell with the Raiders what they're going to do. Number 6, I think also too they're another team. I don't think they're going to do the deal as bad as Giants because they're picking lower, but definitely they love to get a quarterback. Mason Graham for the Jets. Graham is the best D tackle in the draft. You better have 2-3 guys to protect him. This is an elite player. This is probably it for the super elite players to me in the draft. Mason Graham, I think it's a good draft pick for the Jets. I think this is something, again, not maybe the greatest need, but a guy of this caliber, you have to go ahead and do that. Michael Edwards Williams from Georgia. This is a more, to me, I see him more of a 4-3 end. So I think he fits in Carolina as well. Edge guy. He's going to get that sack production. Not quite as good as Abdul Carter. I don't think he has. I don't think he has quite the versatility as Abdul Carter. More traditional, but I think he's going to get a lot of sacks. I think pretty easy to coach. Good. They never really replaced Brian Burns. He can play 3-4. I think he can do that as well. But I think Williams definitely goes in the top 10. Calvin Banks, this might surprise some people. I have him a little ahead of Will Campbell at 10 for the Bears. Banks, I like him better than Will Campbell. I think Campbell, to me, seems to be a bit overrated in terms of I see him super high. I don't think he's that good. Will Campbell has great balance. I think he has good hands, but I don't think he's not a Joe Alt when I see him. Banks, I think, is a little closer to it. He's kind of like J.C. Latham last year, better than I think he is, better than what people think he is, great hand strength, etc. I really like him as well. Yeah, I know. Terry McMillan is Arizona. It's Arizona. Wrong graphic up there. I'm sorry about that, Kenny. So Kenny's a subscriber. Good guy. So we got that. Number 11, Jalen Walker, edge for the 49ers. 49ers are going to be making big changes, I think, for the offseason. Big changes. I think thank you, sir. The 49ers are going to be making big changes in the offseason. They may be losing some wide receivers. So this is a team that's been good, but they have some needs. You cannot pass. You cannot. I figured you might like to pick. You cannot pass on a Jalen Walker. Cannot pass on him. He's got too much ability. This is raw pass rush potential. Outside linebacker, fit right in. So the Niners are going to lose. Again, a lot of this draft is going to be guys you cannot pass on this late. So Walker, I think, is a great pick. Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty is the top 5 talent. Jerry Jones is not going to pass on his running back. I don't think this is absolutely what Dallas would do. Dallas badly needs a running back. badly needs a running back. So I think they absolutely have to take Ashton Genty, Ezekiel Elliott. They let go of. They have to do it. I think as well. They're bringing back. Hopefully they get Dak Prescott back. They got CeeDee Lamb. They may need some help on the line. The line is getting a little young, but Genty, I think, makes a lot of sense. Malachi Starks, big safety need. I think they're probably losing Holland for that. I think Malachi Starks, I think, is good. Not quite as good last year at Georgia. Not quite as good. Solid pick, but I think not quite as good. A little bit of a concern, but easy to me. I think he's easy the best safety pick in this draft. This is about where you would take a safety like mid-first round. Malachi Starks, I think, helps the secondary of the Dolphins. Tyler Warren, love Tyler Warren. There's two really good tight ends in this draft, but Tyler Warren is going over the pick. Starks is great. Losing Holland, yeah, they're definitely, I think, going to lose Holland free agency. Tyler Warren he's a complete tight end. Physicality is the reason why you take him over Colston Loveland here. The Colts definitely need a lot of help on offense. I don't think they have a quarterback. So one thing you want to do is help Anthony Richardson is to go ahead and get Tyler Warren in there to go ahead and help you right away. So I think this is a good pick. James Pierce, edge for the Tennessee from Tennessee Volunteers. Pierce, I think a lot of people were expecting them to take edge last year in the draft, and they really haven't solved it for a while. Pierce, I think, is a lot of talent. Now, we're in the area now with Pierce where there's a lot of good pass rushers, but they're lacking production, they're lacking size, they're lacking a little something. But they definitely need that in Atlanta. They went quarterback last year early. I think they go ahead and take edge with James Pierce. Cardinals take Kenneth Grant. Definitely they need help on defense. I think they Kyler Murray, I think it seems to be a lot of negative with him every year, but definitely they need some help on defense. Part of the problem that they have is the Cardinals. They're in a tough division and need help on defense. So this would definitely help him. I think Grant, is really sneaky. I think if he's playing on the team with Mason Graham, kind of overshadowed him. Walter Nolan for the Bengals, I think, is an Ole Miss. I kind of was thinking maybe wide receiver for them, but I do think they may sign T. Higgins back for another year. So maybe just not a wide receiver. Best defensive player on the board as well. Nolan, I think definitely he's a first rounder. 3 really good D tackles early in this draft. Armin Amembu for the Mizzou Tigers. Good offensive line play here is always in supply in Seattle. It seems like every year we're talking about their offensive line need. Definitely getting a right tackle. And this is a right tackle pure. We talk about Membu. A lot of now these type of guys in the draft. Right tackle guys, not a lot of left tackles. I think pretty much the first 2 are already off the board. A lot of guard-ish guys. A lot of guys who talk about moving inside. They can move from inside. So definitely a need for the Seahawks offensive tackle, Membu. Jared Byrne is fantastic as a player. Loved watching him. I don't think he's as good. I think he easily, in a lot of drafts, could be the number 1 corner because of the 2 outstanding corners in this one, Travis Hunter and Johnson. He's a little bit later, but I love watching him. Probably has had as much fun watching video on him as any of the guys on this list. Definitely can play inside. Got a little bit of that Marcus Peters in him. He is going to take the ball away. That's why I like him as well. Bucks definitely need it. Outstanding pick here, Baron. Colston Loveland. So again, have a young quarterback. How do you help him out? Loveland, I think, is more of a Shannon Sharp-ish, more than a Rod Gronkowski. That makes sense. Doesn't have the physicality, so he's going to get a little bit later. More of a pure tight end, not quite as good as over the middle of the field, but down the field might be the best tight end in the draft. As far as going in, you're going more vertical down the field. Colston Loveland, easy first-round pick. Him and Warren, I think you could see. I mean, you could absolutely see a team taking him earlier, but I think this is a great spot for him. Couple more. Ben Morrison from Notre Dame. I think he's really, really slept on. The two DBs that Notre Dame had, this is it. Maybe a little early, some people are saying, but I think, yeah, Bucks definitely need to beef up that secondary as well. Thank you, spot on with the Broncos. I definitely think Morrison was. I think he's a little bit slept on some of these corners. Not next tier down, but again, a lot of good corners. Late first round, like a good defensive team like the Steelers need some help. Go next to Joey Porter. Mike Green at edge. Definitely, they're losing. They're not bringing back Joey Bosa in Los Angeles. Khalil Mack is free agent. So I think they're definitely looking at edge, and he was fantastic at the Senior Bowl. Fantastic. Mike Green, I think, really had the small school thing sometimes hurts prospects as well, but I think that's probably the only thing, the level of competition. What he did at the Senior Bowl really sold it. Chevron Ravel, again, Jared Alexander probably going out the door in East Carolina. Again, small school, so maybe probably the reason why not hire. Another guy, good week at the Senior Bowl. Packers, this is typical Packers stuff. Defensive guy early, definitely do that. Booga from Ohio State. So kind of overshadowed by two outstanding wide receivers there that they had. Jermaine Smith last year, Marvin Harrison, a good, solid receiver. I don't know if he's a stud. I don't know if you're ever going to see this guy be the best receiver in the league, but definitely you put him on the right team. But definitely a Devontae, not the skill set isn't like Devontae Smith, but a solid number two somewhere. I think his whole career, like maybe a number one receiver, like on a bad team, but a solid number two, right where he is in Minnesota with Justin Jefferson on the other side. I think that'll absolutely work. They're going to have J.J. McCarthy looking maybe starting for them as well. Tyler Booker, best guard in the draft, I think. I don't think it's pretty close. Some people have him higher. I don't think you're going to see him go higher than this. Booker, I think, is part Mauler, big, strong, physical guy, and the technique is there. So I think Booker is absolutely a guy that is going to go ahead, go early in the first round. I think he's the first one off the board. Booker, I think he's plug and play guard. I think he's maybe the only one too, like where you could start him from minute one. Texans could start him right away. Josh Simmons. I've seen him higher. I don't know about if he's going higher. The Rams absolutely would love to take a Josh Simmons. The injury, I think, is a thing. I think taking a guy early with an injury like him, he kind of missed a lot of last year. Very talented guy, but missed a lot of time. I don't think he's going to go 10, 11. I'd be a little surprised, but he's got to be thrilled with this. Definitely. Don't know if Stafford's going to be there. Maybe he will be. But I think this is a guy Stafford would love to have protecting him. Josh Connolly, I think, was terrific at the Senior Bowl. I think the Ravens will absolutely do it. This is a guy, like there's a lot of guys in the draft, like right tackle guys, whatever. Left tackle. So if you want a left tackle, this is absolutely a guy that the Ravens would actually take. So if you're going to take him, you can put Rosengarten on the other side, and you can put Connolly at you can leave Rosengarten on the right side, and you can put Connolly right in at right tackle, left tackle, providing they lose Ronnie Stanley. We're going to talk about that as well. Derek Harmon for the Lions. I think they're about as good as a team in the NFL. I think they just fell asleep against the Commanders on Sunday, so they should actually draft tackle here. Still have some needs on defense. They're still waiting for Aiden Hutchinson. Hopefully he can come back to full health. But definitely best player available need. Giant Campbell for the Commanders. Commanders have a lot of cap room. You know, I'm glad you brought this up. Do I think Wagner's coming back to Washington? Doesn't matter if he comes back. I don't. I think he's probably coming back, but definitely you look at a Bobby Wagner, and Bobby Wagner is already going to be 35, 36. So you want to, even if you keep Bobby Wagner, you want to draft a John Campbell there, who is, I think, definitely the best inside guy on the board. Estuary from Minnesota at old tackle. Right tackle pure. I think definitely they need a lot of, offensive line help in Buffalo. You could put him in at right tackle. I think this will work. as well. Wyatt Millum, the Chefs have a lot of needs for a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. Both tackles, they have a need. They maybe they need help. They need help at running back. Receiver, maybe you have a question. Kelsey, it appears he's coming back. He still might retire. So, yeah, you need a lot of help. But 9-1-1 is the offensive tackle. That's what got him in the Super Bowl. He wasn't good as good as the Super Bowl, but they definitely could use some help here. I got him. Jack Sawyer, the rich get richer. The Eagles get an outstanding, one of those outstanding offensive defensive ends from Ohio State. One of the two. He goes in the first round as well. Yeah, great men are have around Campbell. I agree. Don't want to hate the Chiefs. Hope they swing and miss like they did last year with Kingsley. I'm with you. We're tired of the Chefs, even though they lost. So there you go. Mock draft. Ravens, we'll do the full mock draft next week. We'll do the full 7 rounds. A lot of these mock drafts we're going to do together on the stream as well. But this week, first week, we're just going to do this one as far as the mock draft. Ravens, I think, definitely need offensive line help. There's no question about it. Let's take a look at the presser at the NFL Combine EDC. Every dollar counts. Costa and John Harbaugh. Let's go ahead and hear from EDC here. If we can go ahead and patch it in. I have to prove to Chief that I can handle things on my own. Gentlemen, you found your wallet? Nothing standing in the way of me. My pouch will do it absolutely. He's going to talk about street races. He's going to be talking about Mark Andrews, and some of it here is going to be interesting, what he says about Mark Andrews. So let's go to EDC.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mark is a great player. We're blessed to have 3 really good tight ends under contract this year. They all contribute in different ways. Their chemistry, their camaraderie, their impact on the offense, the relationship with the other skill guys is great. I mean, Mark's going to go down as one of our great players. He'll be in the Ring of Honor someday. I love having Mark on the team. He's an awesome player. I know he's going to have an amazing season. We'll figure out all the roster machinations over the coming weeks, but I can tell you there's no bigger fan of Mark Andrews than me. And he's been a blessing to have on the team. His leadership, the way he approaches the game, his attention to detail. He's just one of those guys.
I think they have a great dodge because they have that one.
So notice what he said there. Notice what he said in that song. Was great to have. Ring of Honor. So Mark Andrews has about $16 million under the cap hit that they're going to have this year for him. It doesn't sound like he's too anxious to go ahead and bring him back there. Thank you, brother. It doesn't sound like he's too anxious to bring back Mark Andrews there as well. A lot of fans are clamoring for Isaiah Likely. I get it. I do think at the very least what he's doing is he is trying to he's trying to negotiate here, right? Like he's definitely at the very least trying to get some help on the cap because all the money he's trying to get. I'm a little surprised at taking this position. This is a guy who's been a Ring of Honor, maybe the greatest Ravens tight end of all time. And it could be showing him the door. But there was a lot of was in there as well. Ronnie Stanley, they are going to negotiate. I'm still not as hopeful as some people seem to be that they're going to sign Ronnie Stanley. I think they're going to talk to him, see if they can get him to take a blue light deal or something, which I don't think he's going to do. I think Ronnie's going to get a bigger deal. EDC was very non-committal also too on Justin Tucker. John Harbaugh, when he was talking about what flat out said they're looking at kickers, in part due to the way he played last year and the age. The issue with Justin Tucker, Eric DeCosta was asked a question about 4 times, and he basically gave the same answer. League is investigating. They're waiting to take action based on the league investigation. They don't sound like they want to cut it because they're not saying much. I think if they wanted to do it, they would have done it by now or something. So even the statement was non-committal. I think they want to keep Justin Tucker, guys. I don't know if they're going to, but I think definitely that's on the table that they're thinking about keeping Justin Tucker. So interesting to see what happens there at the Combine. So this is really the first time we've heard from them really in a while since the end of the season.